Hello, and welcome to Crime in Court. My name is Heather, and this is episode 79 of the Canton cover up Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. And we also talk about Turtleboy, which is who we're going to be talking about today because we're going to read the Bederow letters part 2 and learn about Kate Peters' obsession with Turtleboy. So, basically, I think that's pretty self explanatory. This is the second letter that Mark Bederow, who is the attorney that recently joined Tim Bradle, the other defense attorney. So now they are a team and they are going to be taking on the Commonwealth together. And the people that have helped to set up Turtle Boy to put him in prison. So this is the second. We read previously the first set of letters, which showed the setup and the fact that the fake victim was working with Brian Tully and Ken Mello. Brian Tully being a lieutenant in the Massachusetts State Police, and Ken Mello being the special prosecutor who was actually prosecuting the witness intimidation charges on Turtle Boy, if that makes sense. I know there's so much going on in this case, so I hope that all makes sense to everybody. I hope you followed along. So he had these witness intimidation charges, which are bogus, against the witnesses that are in the Karen Reed trial, so like the McAlberts. Many of them have, and Yuri Buchanan, and I almost said the wrong name, and Michael Proctor. Two of the investigators also claim to be, intimidated by Turtle Boy. They're intimidated by his words. He's not threatening. He's not violent. They're intimidated by what he's saying. So they want to silence him, put him in prison. Well, Kate Peters helped in that. So this is part of that setup as well, but we're going to learn how it all happened, how Kate Peter got involved, and who she is. So let's get started. Please hit the like button if you don't mind. It helps the algorithm. And all right, so this is letter 2. And here we go. So it is addressed to Robert Cosgrove and Kenneth Mello. Robert Cosgrove is the other special prosecutor who has been named to prosecute this case against Turtle Boy because Ken Mello has become very ill. Once there was some clear indication that there was some misconduct going on, Ken Mello kind of disappeared. And he says that he's battling some health issues, which maybe he is, but the timing's just a little odd. So Robert Cosgrove and Ken Mello are both the prosecuting attorneys. Basically, Robert is filling in for Ken. All right, so dear Messers or Misters is what that means. Messrs. Cosgrove and Mello, on October 1st, 2024, Mr. Cosgrove provided the defense with a recording of Catherine Peters' February 26, 2024 call to the Dedham Police about an alleged incident that occurred outside the Norfolk County Superior Court, where a large crowd had gathered for a hearing in the Karen Reed case. Ms. Peter told the police that Aidan Carney was violating a restraining order by being within 100 yards of Lindsay Gattani, that's the fake victim, as he stood outside the Norfolk County Superior Court while Ms. Gattani was inside the courthouse. So a little context here. This was just after he got out of prison, after doing 60 days, after they set him up and put him in there. It was just a few days after he got out. He was attending a Karen Reed hearing, and Lindsay Gattani shows up, and he left the courthouse immediately. He started live streaming about it, which is probably how Kate Peter knew what Turtle Boy was saying, but she called and said, "Oh, he's violating the restraining order," when they totally set it up so that she Lindsay would go to this hearing, even though Lindsay had never gone to any other Karen Reed hearings whatsoever. And we're going to see how they did that. So let's keep reading. All right. So Ms. Peter told the police that Aiden Carney was violating a restraining order by being within 100 yards of Lindsay. Okay. So, but he really wasn't. He had left immediately. Considering this recording and irrefutable evidence that Ms. Peter was or is a source for the Massachusetts State Police investigation into Mr. Carney, we anticipate that she will be a witness at Mr. Carney's upcoming trials. In view of Ms. Peter's status as an MSP source, any communications and evidence in her possession regarding the investigation and prosecution of Mr. Carney is deemed to be within your possession, custody, and control. And as she is a source, it is all discoverable. According pursuant to Brady versus Maryland, Giglio versus United States, Graham versus District Attorney for Hampton District, all these other things, and Rule 14 of the Massachusetts Rules of Criminal Procedure, we demand disclosure of A. Any evidence that Ms. Peter acted as an informant or agent of the MSP or Norfolk County District Attorney's Office or Special Assistant District Attorneys prosecuting Mr. Carney, the Commonwealth, including but not limited to whether she is registered as an informant, whether she is active or was deactivated, names of any MSP handlers, when she became a source, when she started assisting the MSP and or the Commonwealth with respect to Mr. Carney, and any benefits, promises, rewards, leniency in her own criminal matters, or inducements she sought, received, or expects in connection with her cooperation against Mr. Carney. Holy cow, that was so beautifully written. I love Mark Bederow's writing and his words as well. When he speaks out loud, he's very eloquent in saying, in like burning people. This is all discoverable, all of these instances. And we think that there might be some, instances of promises or leniency potentially, and, anything. All of her communications, because she's a source, now is discoverable. We're also asking for all evidence and information in whatever form Ms. Peters furnished to the Commonwealth and or MSP involving the investigation or prosecution of Mr. Carney. Any records of Ms. Peters' communications, including but not limited to email, calls, text messages, instant messages, Instagram direct messages, Discord messages, Facebook messages, Twitter/X messages, or any other third-party messaging applications related to her contacts and interactions with Mr. Carney, Ms. Gattani, Leah Genduso, the Commonwealth, MSP, or any other law enforcement agency regarding Mr. Carney between October 1st, 2023 and the present. He's so thorough. He is so good at wording things to be so completely thorough. And documentation or memorialization of statements made by Ms. Peter to the Commonwealth, MSP, or any other law enforcement agency regarding Mr. Carney and or Ms. Gattani in any form, including but not limited to written reports, notes, email, text messages, audio, or video recordings. Holy crap. I hope that they get a subpoena. Well, this basically is a letter stating this is all Kate Peters' information, her phone, it's discoverable, hand it over, is what they're saying in this letter. If they don't hand it over, if they don't just willingly hand it over, they're going to take action to make them hand it over, which is, so this is a kind warning. Okay, guys? And they want all of this stuff. This is great. All right, so Ms. Peters' role, and she harasses everybody. I don't know if you are involved in Twitter, X, I do and I don't recommend it. I get lost like into rabbit holes, like down the rabbit hole totally in some of these things that I get into. And it's very informative because you learn a lot of things on X. And whew. But she, in particular, she goes by Masshole Mafia on X, and she harasses anybody that she sees a tech or another X post anywhere that she disagrees with. She will come at people full force. And she has made significant threats towards Carney, towards other people. And so I really do hope that they get some kind of subpoena or she hands over her phone because I would love to see her messages with or her messages on like Facebook and social media. Although we know that Aiden probably has a lot of those saved up because that's what he does. He's got receipts to everything, so I hope he does. All right, so where was I? All right, I think I didn't start. So Ms. Peters' role as a source for the MSP and the Commonwealth. Ms. Peter and Mr. Carney are formal colleagues who have publicly feuded for years. So she used to work for Carney when he first started his blog and whatnot, and I think she was a writer or something. I don't really know the full extent, but he had hired her. She was working for him. Things kind of went south. Like he had gotten rid of her because she was stealing from him. And then things obviously, went sour, and she's had a vendetta against him ever since. And she is completely obsessed with Turtleboy. I mean, completely. And he played on last night's live of Turtleboy Live on YouTube. He played a bunch of clips. I'm not going to play them all because if you really want to hear him, I would recommend going to Turtleboy's channel and listening. But he played a bunch of clips of her pretty unhinged and basically coming at Turtleboy full throttle, like I'm coming for you and I'm never gonna stop and blah blah blah. She leaves messages like that to him, so I recommend going to his live. He does read through this and go through some of the voicemails and some of her lives too. Some of the things that she said on YouTube. All right, so motivated by hatred for Mr. Carney, Ms. Peter aligned herself with Ms. Gattani and others who dislike Mr. Carney reporting blah blah blah. Let me see, I can do that better. Motivated by hatred for Mr. Carney, Ms. Peter aligned herself with Ms. Gattani and others who dislike Mr. Carney's reporting, including members of the Albert and McCabe families, some of whom are named in the first indictment against Mr. Carney. These alliances have enabled her to exploit the criminal justice system in furtherance of her effort to ruin Mr. Carney. Ms. Peters' dedication to this task was so thorough that the MSP and Commonwealth utilized her services to assist them in their investigation and prosecution of Mr. Carney. Ms. Peter, who had no direct involvement in these matters and is not an alleged victim, was provided Mr. Mello and MSP Detective Lieutenant Tully's private cell phone numbers. Thus, Ms. Peter had the ability to call and text both of their private devices, and these we would love to see as well, but unfortunately, some things have been deleted in the evidence that has been turned over to the defense. But we know it's not a complete report because things have been, let's say, posted on X, things that should have been or would have been in a phone extraction that Tully turned over or should have been. It wasn't there. And dates and everything confirmed. So she was posting things. Kate Peter was posting things on X that she had that had been deleted from an extraction of Tully's phone, which they got. All right, so as a valued source of against, why can I not speak? As a valued source of information against Mr. Carney, Ms. Peter has presented the MSP with video evidence, sourced Mr. Carney's online presence and reported things to the MSP that they can't find or document, including a 30-second clip of a video that Ms. Peters sent to Detective Lieutenant Tully, which the Commonwealth used to secure Mr. Carney's indictment for wiretapping. Get that? So there was a 30-second video clip that Ms. Peters sent to Detective Tully, and it wasn't turned over in the distraction or in the extraction. They do not have it, but it was used in a grand jury transcript by Lieutenant Tully to indict Turtleboy on wiretapping charges. Hold on one sec. All right, so yeah, think about that. They used a clip to indict him that they still have not seen. The defense still has not seen, and we believe it's probably a made up clip or something that Kate Peter has either taken out of context or clipped or, made up some kind of evidence that would have indicted him for wiretapping, which was from his recording the fake victim when she was screaming at him and trying to get him to stay, and he just wanted to leave her apartment. I can't even get into all of the details. If you don't know, I'm sorry if you're lost. There's just so many details with all of this. I go through everything with the Turtle Boy incidents, the indictments, and everything on my channel. If you're lost, I'm sorry. All right, so moving on. On February 26, 2024, several hours after Ms. Peter called the police to help orchestrate Mr. Carney's prosecution for allegedly violating a restraining order, she left Mr. Carney two crude, harassing, and in part threatening voicemails in the first message. Ms. Peter gloated about her value as a source to the Commonwealth. She calls him a slang term for someone who is gay, which I'm not going to say. It's Kate Peter. Another term I'm not going to say, but he calls her this, KP. I'll just say, every time you get a blocked number, it's not Lindsay or LG or anyone else. It's me. And I just want to let you know that when you go back to jail, I had absolutely every effing thing to do with it. So this whole sentence right here, she is admitting on a voicemail to Aiden that she is trying to put him away in prison. Because you are a dumb MFer. I am going to get the best of you. You are a bad person and everyone's going to see it. Have a nice day. By the way, Karen wants nothing to do with you. Go F yourself. And then calls him the B word. I meant it. So clearly unhinged words. These are just out of nowhere, unprovoked. He gets these messages from her. In the second harassing and threatening message, Ms. Peter demonstrated her familiarity with and incorrect understanding of the Massachusetts witness intimidation statute. She says, I am not afraid of you. I never witness intimidated you. You are not a witness in any case. Ms. Peter assuredly knew that a criminal defendant, Mr. Carney, qualified as a protected potential witness and someone aware of information, records, or documents or objects related to a violation of all the things he's being charged of. Those are his charges. So he's basically a witness in his own case. He is a witness because he has these criminal charges potentially. That's how the witness intimidation works in Massachusetts, the statute. Her brazen statement that Mr. Carney was not a witness and belief that she had carte blanche to unload a barrage of crude, harassing, and threatening statements to a possible witness without violating the witness intimidation statute evinces her knowledge of the significance of having Ms. Gattani classified as a witness by Mr. Mello. Ms. Peter, who calls to Mr. Carney were designed solely to harass and humiliate, remains uncharged for her clear violations. So why is she not being charged when these are clear violations of harassment of those statutes? Yet Carney, who barely did anything, he didn't do anything illegal, he's being charged falsely for witness intimidation. On February 26, 2024, her conduct is within the statute of limitations, while Mr. Carney, a practicing journalist whose reports on the Karen Reed case exposed possible corruption and an alleged cover-up involving several of the MSP and civilian witnesses against him, is under indictment for making phone calls, expressing his opinion, reporting, and encouraging further discussion on a controversial and high-profile criminal case of, I don't know, it cuts off. Sorry, the image cut off. Probably a case of intimidation. All right, so back to her, Kate Peters' other message. You are a small, I'm not going to say all these words. You are a small effing F who likes to prey on women. Call me back, MFer. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Leah and Lindsay. Let's talk about what you did to Jen McCabe and Colin Albert, a 19-year-old juvenile. First of all, 19 isn't a juvenile, okay? So I don't know where she's getting that. Second of all, what did he do to them? What did he do to any of these people? He did not do anything wrong to these people. I don't know, like, I don't know how his wronging them either affects her. So why does she care so much? Moving on. How is your wife doing, by the way? How are your aid and neglected children doing, by the way? Call me back, you effing F. I'll drive over to your parents' house right now, F you. Like, where is this even coming from? Minutes later, Ms. Peters sent Mr. Carney the following message on Discord. Aiden, you manless F, answer your phone. That's what I'll call it. She's crazy. Like, this is unhinged. These are the actions and words of someone who is unhinged. On March 11th, 2024, Ms. Peter again took credit for her substantial contributions to the Commonwealth and MSP, boasting under oath that Mr. Carney is angry and upset with me because I have been cooperating with the prosecution and giving them information on him. He can blame me for all of his problems because I am furnishing information. That is part of an audio transcript of Carney versus Peter. That's crazy. On September 5th, 2024, testifying in a West Roxbury matter in which she was accused of witness intimidation in violation of a restraining order. This is on somebody else who she didn't like solely for the fact that this woman supported Turtleboy. Mr. Peter described herself as a potential witness in Mr. Carney's criminal case. She swore under oath that when she saw her accuser on October 11th in Stoughton District Court, where Mr. Carney was being arraigned, she was there to meet Mr. Mello, even though she wasn't named as an alleged victim in that or any other case. We intend to examine Ms. Peter and Mr. Mello under oath. Yes, I can't wait to hear what they have to say about the purpose of this meeting and the substance of their conversation at the January 10th, 2025 evidentiary hearing on the motion to disqualify Mr. Mello under Rule 3.7 of the Massachusetts Rules of Professional Conduct. So we're going to hear from you one way or another, so hand the phone over and be honest, or we're going to get you on the stand and we're going to get a subpoena for your data, basically. Ms. Peters' working relationship with the MSP and Commonwealth is so strong that the Norfolk County DA's office has recused itself from 2 witness intimidation prosecutions currently pending against her in Norfolk County. Indeed, Ms. Peter admitted as much to Ms. Gattani, who documented this case in a text message that she sent to Ms. Peter on December 12th. So again, Ms. Gattani is the fake victim who was claiming that the Turtleboy assaulted her in December. Ms. Peter and Gattani had been in cahoots. They'd been talking. So this is all exposing that. So indeed, Ms. Peter admitted as much to Ms. Gattani, who documented this fact in a text message she sent to Ms. Peter on December 12th, 2023. She says, Mr. Carney thinks your case is being moved because he is the conflict of interest. He has no idea it's you because you are working with the police, LOL. So they recused themselves because it's a conflict of interest when she's a source for them. And there's witness intimidation charges against her. So it kind of makes them look bad too that they've got this woman who's clearly unhinged and she's got witness intimidation charges on her from somebody else. And she has Carney has a restraining order on her, and other people have a restraining order on her. So it just gets crazier and crazier, this case. It goes without saying that any evidence within your possession, custody, or control related to Ms. Peters' relationship with the Commonwealth and MSP, including her possible motive to favor the prosecution over Mr. Carney, must be disclosed under Brady and its progency, I don't know how you say that, notwithstanding the Norfolk County DA's office recusal on Miss Peters' criminal matters. That office inexplicably represented the Commonwealth at her most recent arraignment for witness intimidation on October 1st, 2024. That appearance afforded the Commonwealth with a strong basis to seek revocation of her bail, which would have been an expected motion from a disinterested prosecutor, given that Ms. Peter has 4 pending witness intimidation cases against her. Not to mention possible, or I know of at least 2 restraining orders against her, probably more. So, however, on information and belief, the Norfolk County DA's office didn't notify the court about Ms. Peters' special relationship with the Commonwealth and MSP. Consequently, the court likely was kept ignorant about their special relationship and wasn't presented with an application to revoke Ms. Peters' bail, which would have been the normal thing to do for any prosecutor. A prosecutor would tell a judge, if they didn't have a relationship with this person, this particular person has 4 pending witness intimidation cases and they're already on bail, so it's time to revoke their bail, meaning that they have charges against them at the moment. They've broken them. They should be put in prison. She should be put in prison. So in these circumstances, there is at least an appearance of preferential treatment provided to Ms. Peter by the Norfolk County DA's office due to her cooperation against Mr. Carney. It definitely appears that way. Even if it's just an appearance of preferential treatment, that needs to end because that's not appropriate. Just an appearance of some kind of preference or bias is not allowed by law. You're not supposed to be that way. All right, where was 4? Okay. So Ms. Peters' direct role in the prosecutions against Mr. Carney, as explained pretty much above, I think, right? Super is above, and there's another one that means below. I don't know. We went over it in another one. As explained, Ms. Peter has described herself as a potential witness against Mr. Carney. It made little sense for Mr. Mello to meet with Mr. It made little sense for Mr. Mello to meet with Ms. Peter on the day of Mr. Carney's arraignment for charges that didn't even involve her, unless, just as Ms. Peter and Lieutenant Fanning testified, she was a valuable source to the Commonwealth and MSP in their investigation of Ms. Carney. So they didn't press charges or push for charges for her because she's likely a source, and they most likely met with her to discuss Carney's case. So Ms. Peters' involvement in the cases involving Ms. Gattani is more apparent. Evidence from the extraction report of Ms. Gattani's cellular phone demonstrates that Ms. Peter advised Ms. Gattani throughout the process that resulted in Ms. Gattani's accusing Mr. Carney of crimes. For example, In early December 2023, Ms. Peter leveraged her special relationship with the Commonwealth and MSP and urged Ms. Gattani to speak with Mello. So she is the connecting link. She gets them to talk, Mello and Ms. Gattani, the fake victim. On the morning of December 11th, 2023, just hours before Ms. Gattani and Leah Genduso workshopped making Ms. Gattani a witness. So that, remember, we read in the last letter that they were, Leah was like, hey, I got a great idea. Then there was like a text missing. And then Ms. Gattani wrote back like, yeah, that's a great idea. I can't believe I didn't think of the witness intimidation statute. We should use it against him. Play him at his own game. Beat him at his own game. That's exactly like almost word for word what they said. But there's a text in between missing where Leah Genduso says, let's use the witness intimidation statute against him. So that's missing in the Lindsay report or extraction. Anyways, all right. So on the morning of December 11th, just hours before Ms. Gattani and Leah Genduso workshopped the making Gattani a witness against Mr. Carney so Gattani could play him at his own game and have him jailed, Ms. Peter encouraged Ms. Gattani to speak directly and secretly with Mr. Mello. Directly and secretly with Mr. Mello, which is absolutely not allowed. I mean, why didn't she go to law enforcement if there was a problem with Carney? Why is she going to the prosecutor in Carney's case? Ms. Peters' reasoning was to prevent the existence and substance of the conversation from being discovered by Mr. Carney or others who might later seek access to public records. Ms. Peter, I'm going to work on getting you some legal protection here. Ms. Gattani, oh, okay. So Kate says, I'm going to work on getting you legal protection here. Ms. Gattani, Lindsay says, how? Lindsay says, I'm going to call Mello in a bit when the shit hits the fan down here. Feel out the situation. You have some information that would certainly be an incentive for the powers that be to protect you. Don't let anyone know we've talked, please. Miss Peter says, I've got his cell number. It can't be FOIA'd. His line is obviously not recorded. LOL. So Miss Peter thinks that you can't FOIA a private phone call, so you can text him. Text him his private cell phone. Here's his private cell phone number. Talk to him. Tell him whatever you want, because you can't FOIA it. That's her excuse. Ms. Peter writes again, I know you were asking for Tully's number yesterday, but it's actually better to go straight to Mello at this point. Again, why is she going to the prosecutor and not the law enforcement? And Tully, by the way, is state police, so that's not even who you would call. You would call your local police department or go into your local police department and file a report if you were really being threatened by someone. All right, so Ms. Peter, honestly, they take more info than they give. LOL. Common misconception that I get my info from the DA or MSP. I don't, generally speaking. I just have a really good relationship with the O'Keefes, Alberts, McCabe's, and several other journalists working on this thing. Okay, so I did talk to Mello off the record with some specifics. So let's read these footnotes. That evening, Ms. Peter enticed Ms. Gattani to speak with a journalist preparing an expose on Mr. Carney. After impressing Ms. Gattani by describing her direct relationship with a reporter, including that she had dinner with reporter, Ms. Peter urged Ms. Gattani to share her invaluable perspective with the reporter. So she's urging the fake victim to talk to the press. And this is the reporter that they're talking about is Gretchen Voss. I don't know who she is. Her name comes up a lot in this case. I believe she worked for does work for like a bigger news company out there in Boston, but I'm not sure, or maybe she's even independent now. But we know she's very much in cahoots with Miss Peter, and we'll find out how. All right, so the next day, Ms. Gattani, who had not yet spoken with Mr. Mello, replied, OMG, really? I'll gladly talk with, and then the reporter's name. And then the next footnote is on December 28th, 2023, Mr. Mello told the Fall River Reporter that Ms. Gattani recently became a witness after we received some communication from her. And then there's some exhibits that reference that. Ms. Peter then provided Ms. Gattani with Mr. Mello's private cellular phone number. Left unanswered is what Ms. Peter and Mr. Mello discussed during any off-the-record conversations and what Ms. Gattani and Mr. Mello discussed in conversations that Ms. Peter, suggested should be held in a manner designed to avoid possible disclosure. So they are specifically trying to avoid disclosing information. That's why they're having these secret meetings. Similarly, as illustrated by their text message from the evening of December 13th, 2023, the defense is entitled to know what advice Ms. Peter provided Ms. Gattani, who was concerned about her own criminal exposure, because Ms. Gattani was faking being this. She was doing some witness intimidation of her own on X under a fake account name, which has been determined to be her now. So Jane, she went by Jane, and it's confirmed that that was her. So Ms. Peter provided these advice to Ms. Gattani, who was concerned about her own criminal exposure shortly before she spoke to MSP for the first time. And I'm going to read this footnote before we read that. Once again, based on the substance of Ms. Gattani's responses, it appears that some of Ms. Peter's responses are not included in the extraction report of Ms. Gattani's phone. So they have Ms. Gattani's extraction from her phone because she was, they've been litigating on their own things. So he already had that, and they're finding that there are things that are not adding up. And responses and things are not there. They're missing. All right, so Miss Gattani says, I'm worried now. Miss Peter says, worried about what? Now I'm worried. So was there something said in between there from 9:27 to 9:35? Why worried about what? Now I'm worried. It makes sense that there was some context in between. Miss Peter said, or Miss Gattani says, no, just worried for Jane. Was that considered witness intimidation? I can't remember now that what the tweet said that he was mentioned in. So, little context here. Jane, again, this was her fake account, a fake tweet. She was definitely doing some witness intimidation and, telling Aiden Carney some horrible things under this fake account. But she's acting like Jane is a different person. So in her conversations to Ms. Peter, she is saying, Jane, I'm worried about this person, Jane, as a third person, like a third party. So this Jane is actually her. So they are both like playing each other. Ms. Peter is playing her for getting Aiden in prison, and Ms. Gattani is playing Kate for I don't know what reason, but she's also lying. So I don't know. Just pointing that out. So then Ms. Peter says, she said nothing that any reasonable person could reach and say is witness intimidation. Ms. Gattani says, okay, well, I'm going to be calling you before my meeting tomorrow anyway with more questions about this. I feel like that's something he would try and do and wasn't even thinking of that. Okay, so now let's read the Jane footnote here. So as you are aware, Ms. Gattani lied to Ms. Peter, among others, about the identity of Jane. Ms. Gattani is Jane. She created the fake Twitter persona on her cell phone on October 2023 to anonymously communicate with people who dislike Mr. Carney and to release harmful information about him. So basically to spread to spread misinformation, to humiliate and shame and put information out there about Aiden Carney that is not true. She was purposely out there also to fight with people who are who support Karen Reed. She would go and argue with people too. So just interesting people. So the above texts suggest that Ms. Gattani was concerned that if she spoke to the MSP and gave them her cellular phone, they would discover that she was Jane and that she violated the same witness intimidation statute that she, Ms. Peter, and Ms. Genduso sought to exploit as the basis for Ms. Carney's arrest and incarceration. So basically, she's doing the very thing that she is accusing Carney of, only Carney didn't do it, if that makes sense. All right, so Ms. Peter also was the driving force for Mr. Carney's arrest for his alleged violation of a restraining order on February 26, 2024. Mr. Carney, who had been released from jail on February 23, 2024, announced the following evening on his Turtleboy Live show that he would be attending the February 26th Karen Reed hearing. A review of the communications between Ms. Gattani and Ms. Peter demonstrate that they regularly watched and discussed Mr. Carney's live shows. Mr. Carney had his bail revoked after his arrest, just for context, for the events in December of the previous year. All right, so several weeks earlier, in January 2024, Ms. Peter told Ms. Gattani that Paul O'Keefe, the brother of Boston police officer John O'Keefe, wanted to meet her. Ms. Gattani excitedly responded, "Paul O'Keefe wants to meet me?" And emphasis was in the original, so she capitalized the me. In April 2020, remember, so she came to a hearing. I think I said this already. She came to a hearing that Aiden just had to leave from because she showed up, and they're saying that she violated the restraining order, blah, blah, blah. So in April 2024, Ms. Gattani who had not attended any other Reed proceedings, testified that she went to the February 26, 2024 appearance at the personal invitation of Paul O'Keefe. The brother of John O'Keefe invites this fake victim to sit with him solely to get Aiden to leave. I don't think she's been to any other hearings for Karen Reed since. Maybe one. But mostly no. She might come to the ones where Turtleboy's going to prison, but I don't think I've seen her at any of the Karen Reed hearings or trial. She didn't care about going. She didn't care about this case. She just wanted to avenge him leaving her because he didn't want to be with her. So she took that personally. Mr. O'Keefe's communications with Mr. Carney contradict Ms. Gattani. In July 2024, Mr. O'Keefe denied inviting Ms. Gattani to court. Okay, so then how did she get there? He told Mr. Carney there was a miscommunication, but Ms. Gattani didn't lie because she thought Mr. O'Keefe invited her. Huh? Mr. O'Keefe's explanation suggests that Miss Peter told Ms. Gattani that Mr. O'Keefe wanted her to appear in court to entice Ms. Gattani, who had an open restraining order against Mr. Carney, to attend. Ms. Peter's communications with Ms. Gattani and Mr. O'Keefe will shed light on this question. In any event, it appears that Ms. Peter coordinated. Damn it. It cuts off. Coordinated Ms. Gattani's presence. I wasn't on a footnote, sorry. Coordinated Ms. Gattani's presence at the February 26, 2024 appearance to make sure Mr. Carney would not be able to attend and to increase the likelihood that Mr. Carney would be arrested if he went to the courthouse. So they set him up yet again. So it's not enough that they set him up to go to prison for 60 days and take away his freedom, his life, his time with his kids, everything. They want to throw him back in prison and they coordinated with the O'Keefes so that Lindsay could sit there and shoo Turtleboy out of the room, basically. So Ms. Peter accomplished her goals. Mr. Carney was required to leave the courtroom after Miss Catani arrived with her restraining order in hand. He went outside and began a live stream to explain the situation to his interested viewers. Ms. Peter, who wasn't even there, immediately called the police, while Ms. Catani was still in the courtroom to report that Carney, this is her words, Kate's words. Carney was just removed from the courtroom. He's in violation of a restraining order. He refuses to leave the courtroom steps. He's within 100 yards of the victim, and he is currently screeching how she is there. He definitely is in violation of the restraining order. You might want to get someone down there. So here's the footnote, on March 14th, 2024, Mr. Mello attempted to use this incident as a basis to revoke Mr. Carney's bail. After an evidentiary hearing at which the Dedham police officers who interacted with Mr. Carney and Ms. Catani on February 26 testified, the court refused to detain Mr. Carney. So when Carney left the courtroom, he came out on the court steps. He asked an officer, "Where can I go? There's someone who has a restraining order against me. I just want to be safe." And so an officer told him where to stand. If it weren't for that and him live streaming, he probably would have gone back to jail, because the officers that he engaged with and interacted with verified that, yes, he talked to me. Yes, he wanted to get as far away from her as possible. So how can you charge him or put him back in prison for that? On April 26, 2024, after an evidentiary hearing at which Ms. Catani testified about her version of which occurred on February 26, the court lessened the conditions of the restraining order against Mr. Carney because they actually tried to get the restraining order released, get it revoked, because there really is no basis for it. It was on fake charges. She didn't even press charges for the A and B. So they really tried to get it revoked, but the court couldn't do that. There's no precedent for it. So he lessened the condition, stating that when you're in anywhere on court property, anywhere like near a courthouse or whatnot, he lessened the restriction so that he can be in the courtroom while Lindsay is also there. So it's not as restrictive. And because that's all he wants is to report, and she's taking away his ability to do his job by her being there with the restraining order. And once they lessened the restraining order, she was of no use to Kate Peter or the O'Keefes anymore, or the Alberts. So she stopped coming to any of the hearings. She never went. Ms. Peters' communications are discoverable and favorable. Communications and statements of Ms. Peter are discoverable under Brady and Giglio and Rule 14, irrespective of whether you intend to call her as a prosecution witness. The Commonwealth is in possession, custody, and control of the requested evidence. See Pope, blah, 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 which on information and belief tends to support the defense position that Ms. Peters' animus towards Mr. Carney led her to A, gather evidence against Mr. Carney at the behest of the Commonwealth and MSP and then provide it to them, B, orchestrate Mr. Carney's arrests by using her special relationship with the Commonwealth and MSP, and C, befriend Ms. Gattani for the purpose of cajoling her to accuse Mr. Carney of criminal conduct. Ms. Peter, you're in trouble. You've got a lot of things going on here. So the last message from Ms. Peter that appears on the extraction report from Ms. Gattani's cellular phone was sent on December 14th, 2023 at 1:16 a.m. It is hard to accept as coincidence that Ms. Peters' communications seemingly cease shortly after Ms. Gattani's text to Ms. Peter about her interactions with Mr. Mello and Detective Lieutenant Tully, and Jennifer McCabe's feedback on Ms. Katani's meeting with Detective Lieutenant Tully. So I was going to say something before I get into that, and now I can't remember. Never mind. All right, so who is texting this? Okay, so these are Gatani's text messages from December 14th to Ms. Peter. She says at 3:10 p.m., "Hey, just left." Or they just left. So meaning probably Tully and Mello. Yes, about her interactions with Tully and Mello. They just left. At 3:45, depends on your definition of good. Sorry, I know the anticipation is killing you. So where's the information in between? Because obviously Kate Peter asked her something or said something. Because it looks like she's answering it. At 3:48, yeah, no bueno on that front. What is she talking about? Again, no text from Kate. 3:51, I know Mello told me yesterday not to worry about anything, but I was told something entirely different today. I'll explain when I call. And then at 4:25 or 4:24 p.m., Ms. Gattani calls Ms. Peter. They talk on the phone for 2 hours and 32 minutes. December 15th. What did Jen McCabe and everyone think of my meeting yesterday? So she's asking Kate, what did Jen McCabe think of me meeting with Tully and Mello yesterday? Why does she care? And what does it matter? And what does Jen McCabe have to do with anything? So at 8:43, so as you can see, there's like big gaps in time here. She responds, OMG, really? So what did Kate say about Jen's response to that meeting? Continuing on a minute later, she says, comment about anything specific or just in general about Karen's case. Then she says, shit, LOL. Is Tully gonna get mad that I told people that? Is Tully gonna get mad that I told people that? Yeah, good point. Oh, okay. Would he even buy that? Would he even buy that? That's like, are you coming up with another lie? Another thing to tell law enforcement to get Turtleboy in prison? Would he even buy that? What did Tully say is next steps? Did he talk to Mello yet? Ms. Gattani posts to Facebook at 4:22 p.m. Big news coming soon. Stay tuned. Emphasis on in the original. So she wrote big news and all the exclamation points. And as inconceivable as it seems, according to the extraction report of Ms. Gattani's phone, Ms. Peter did not respond to any of Ms. Gattani's messages cited above, even though some clearly are responsive to Ms. Peter or a question or something. It is particularly concerning that the messages missing from an extraction report compared by the MSP are messages from their own source containing information from and about Ms. Gattani, Mr. Mello, Detective Lieutenant Tully, and Ms. McCabe. So as you can see, what they're saying here is it doesn't make sense that just these particular text messages that are talking about interactions with Gattani or Kate with Mello and Tully, they're getting deleted or they're missing. So why is that? And it's just very peculiar. It's maybe not a coincidence. Finally, it should be noted that Ms. Peter has displayed some of her messages with Ms. Gattani that do not appear on the extraction report from Ms. Gattani's phone on her own live shows. So she has basically outed herself on her own YouTube channel because she has posted things or displayed things that weren't in the original distraction. That was what I was talking about earlier. So on October 3rd, 2024, Ms. Peter posted some of the missing messages on her Twitter/X account. In other words, Ms. Peter has access to the text messages that we are missing. Again, it's discoverable. You have it, turn it over. Accordingly, because Ms. Peter, a source closely associated with the MSP and Commonwealth, possesses the requested evidence which is relevant, favorable to the defense, and within your possession, custody, and control, such evidence in any form should be promptly disclosed to the defense. Given the December 17th, 2024 trial date, we are going to trial with this, with the witness intimidation charges, on the district court matter. We would appreciate a prompt response so we may pursue other remedies before trial in the event you cannot or will not disclose evidence pursuant to this demand. Wow. I mean, we all, as this all was unfolding, we were seeing it happen, but laying it all out there in this letter just makes you go, oh my God, they are so corrupt and so, uh, Kate Peter and Gutani are so dead. Like they're in so much trouble, I think. I think they are really going to get the felony witness intimidation charges on them, and they're going to stick. These are going to get thrown out because for Turtleboy because he didn't intimidate anybody. If telling someone to tell the truth is intimidating, then you got to stop and think, why is it intimidating to that person? Because the truth they don't want to come to light. That's the real reason these witness intimidation charges have been placed on Turtleboy, and why. And now you see like all the stuff that was going on in the background, the communications between Tully and Mello and Gutani and Peter, and how to set someone up. This is how not to set someone up 101 classes. That's basically what we should call these episodes because they're really bad at it. But it's all there, black and white. Thank you for being bad at it because we can expose it to the world. And there you have it. So I leave you with that. This is a crazy case. I hope you guys were able to follow because there's just so much. Like my head wants to explode. Like I knew all of this stuff already, but when Mark lays it out so eloquently and beautifully, all rolled into one nice little cohesive, understandable, like he gives you all the details you need to understand what's going on. And I think, man, if this judge has any integrity whatsoever, I think things are really going to turn around for Turtleboy, and they're not looking so good for Lindsay and Kate. What do you guys think? Let me know. This is crazy. This case is crazy. What do you think about this setup and all of this craziness? Let me know in the comments below. Please hit the like button on your way out. I thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye now.